Yeah. Hey, everybody. It's another Monday. We made it back. And tonight's going to be really good because we had technical difficulty. And so, when the devil's trying to keep you from doing something, it's going to be good. So our guest had a few things going on. And so, but he's here and I'm excited for you to meet him. But first, I have to take care of some issues, that I take care of every week. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in every week. I looked at the analytics from who's viewing, which you can't see all the time. You see people who like and who comment, but people are watching from everywhere, even in other continents. How about that? So I guess I better be nice. My mama's looking too. So anyway, thank you for joining us again on this Monday. And as you know, this is a place where I ask some of my wonderful, interesting friends to tell their stories or talk about things of today. And tonight's no different. We have a really, really, really cool person on tonight. But I have to talk about the notorious RBG. And I know we've had a number of people who talk about they don't like either side. They have no reason to vote. What are all the other things they say? They don't like who's running. Their vote doesn't count. Well, I want to give you 2 reasons to vote. I posted this on my Instagram page today. These are 2 reasons for you to vote. If you have no other reason to vote, you don't have a grandmother or a great grandmother or anyone who is in your family who made a difference in your life. These 2 people made a difference in all of our lives. If you're living today, they have made a difference in your life. If you're a woman today, she has made a difference in your life. If you're a person of color today, he has made a difference in your life. So if you have no other reason to vote, vote for one of them. They can't vote. They're not here. They can't vote. So if you have no reason to vote, vote for one of them. I'm sure they will smile down from heaven and be very, very, very happy that you voted. So in honor of the great John Lewis, the Honorable John Lewis, and Supreme Court Justice RGB, I just like Notorious RGB because one of my favorite phrases is dynamite in small packages. So if you have no other reason to vote, vote for them. And the other thing that I harp on every week, and this is the last week to harp on it, because if you don't do it, you won't get done. You need to be counted. And I thought I heard, I couldn't find the statistics tonight, but I thought I heard where we were at 90% nationally. And so that's better than the 84 I think we were last week. So, and I'm not sure because I didn't find the information, but if we're growing, that's good. But you need to be counted for so many reasons. And this is a website, if you want to go there to be counted, www.2020census.gov. And on the first page, it says, be counted. You can go through, it will take you less than 10 minutes for sure to register, to put in your census information. And last but not least, what do you have to do? And next week, we're going to have an exciting show. We're going to have a number of elected officials from different states, friends, maybe some family. I may have to find some family too, to come on to talk about voter registration, information, and motivation. As I was talking earlier, I'm burdened by the number of people who are talking about their vote doesn't count. They don't want to vote. It doesn't make a difference. No one has done anything for us, neither party. They don't like the choices. So next week, we hope to inspire you in some manner to decide to vote and also to help others register to vote. And if you are not registered to vote, remember, see my little QR code up the top? If you use, I can never get this right. How to do my finger? Let's see. Okay, go over there. There it is. There it is. If you scan that QR code with your camera on your phone, it will take you directly to a place where you can register to vote, you can check on your registrations and do all the other things you need to do. So please, if you know someone that needs to register to vote, whenweallvote.org, that's a website that's one website you can go to. There are many websites that you can go to register to vote. And next week we'll be talking about it. So please bring your family, your friends, anyone. And if they are not on Facebook, they can go to my YouTube page, which is Gloria56 AKA. This also broadcasts on there. If they're not on Facebook, they can use that on YouTube to listen to the broadcast. And also they'll be able to scan the QR code and register to vote. We're doing this in conjunction with When We All Vote, which you know is the voting organization that our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, co-chairs. So we are trying to do what we can do to help people to get registered. And then later in October, we'll be talking about early voting and getting people to the polls, because it's one thing to register. It's another thing to get people to the polls. So that's that's all my stuff for tonight. So now we're going to talk about this person that we have tonight. Now let's see. First of all, he's a brother in Christ, and also he's my alpha brother, Ski Fi. He's a lifetime member. He was a member of Ocean of Soul. Any TSU people on the line? He was also voted, I think Emma sent me something saying that he was voted one of the greatest alumni, the alumni of the year for TSU. He is the greatest mentor of all times. If you've ever heard of Big Brother and Big Sister, I know you've heard of Dale Long. Has experienced great trauma, and you'll hear about that later, but he's also had recognition from the White House. He's been in Forbes, Essence, Time, and Ebony. Let's see. I think that's probably not all that he's done. I'm trying to see. Oh, and he's currently, and he'll talk about this, Kids in Birmingham, 1963. He's a communications director for them. And, you know, hopefully you have some real cool people in your life. And Dale Long is just one of the coolest people that I know. Hey, Dale.
Hello, Gloria.
Can you hear me? I'm good. I'm honored to have you, and I appreciate you taking the time. We got two Dales up here.
Why do we have two?
I don't know. You came in 2 times. You double trouble. Let me see if I can. No, I don't want to add that one. Let's see what it could do. Okay, I'm gonna kick this one from the studio so we can have one. Let's see if that works. Okay, now we have one. Can you hear me? No,
you can't see you.
You can't see me. Well, that's not necessary. No, you can't see me. Let's see. I'm not sure about that. But if you can see yourself and you don't see me, that's okay.
I can't see myself, but we can go on like this. As long as you see me, we're doing good.
Okay. Well, maybe I kicked the wrong one off. You want to log back in on the one you had logged in? Or?
Try.
Okay.
I'm going to try it one more time.
Okay. So that means we get to talk about a lot of stuff. Hopefully, you saw the show last week. We had a great show dealing with lupus. If you know anyone who has lupus, the show is still up on Facebook, and it's also still up on YouTube. But it was a great show. Some of my friends who have been dealing with lupus were on the show. We good?
We're good.
Some of my friends who are dealing with lupus, one was diagnosed at 20 years and the other was diagnosed at 50 years. So we had really 2 different perspectives on on dealing with lupus. So if you haven't seen that, like I said, it is on my YouTube channel and on here on Facebook. So Dale is back, and I was saying, yeah, I did say hopefully you have some real cool people, because Dale Long is one of the coolest people I know. I'm honored to have the ability to call him when I want to and just talk sometimes. But his best asset, that's what I didn't mention. His best asset is his beautiful wife, Ellen, who is an AKA also. That's all I just had to say that. But he has a lot of good qualities, but that's his best asset. So welcome to our show, Dale. It's TTT, y'all. It's time to talk. And we're going to get to know a lot about Dale Long today. And I know I'll have more surprises, because every time I talk to you, I get more surprises. So I know I'll get more surprises. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Gloria. Thanks for inviting me. I've heard a lot about your show. Every now and then I get a chance to tune in on Monday evenings to check it out myself. And I'm honored
Well, thank you.
to be here with you this evening.
One of the first questions I always ask is, because I try to prove to the people that I know who I'm talking to. Do you recall when we first met? I do, but I'll see what you remember. It wasn't church, so that was my other one.
Was it a church? I know we met as we were both employed with the Dallas Area Rapid Transit.
Yeah.
I was working in together and conducted the starter system, the very first line of the Dallas Area Rapid Transit light rail system.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now we've always run into each other doing. It has been. It's surprising that DART just celebrated, the light rail just celebrated 20 years. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it has.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize. Yeah, I guess it has been. I was like, I didn't realize, but yeah, I guess it has been 20 years that DART would be selling. Yeah, that, because when we first put it in, yep. God. Okay. Time passes. And what is this? What is the saying? Time waits for no one. So
Absolutely.
Dale, we're here tonight to talk about you. So I want you to tell me a little bit of your story. Start with a little bit, and then, I have some questions to pull out. But tell us where you're from, where you were born, where you went to school, and you can tell a grandmother story too, because I love your grandmother stories.
Well, thank you. And I enjoy telling this story. I was born in Tuskegee, Alabama, but I grew up in Birmingham in the 50s and 60s. Birmingham was known as the Johannesburg of the South. It was the most thoroughly segregated city in the humanity, like going into a department store and trying on a pair of shoes or a suit or a hat. You couldn't do that as an African American in Birmingham. No way could you sit down in a restaurant and have a meal. You would go around to the back and order a burger if you cared to do so. When my mother attempted to buy shoes for my brother and I, she would have to take our feet and trace the outline on a piece of paper and hand it to the attendant at the department store in order to buy shoes, because we couldn't try them on. Again, Birmingham was thoroughly segregated. People were shopping where they couldn't be employed. And if they were employed as janitors and as maids and so forth. And so Reverend Shuttlesworth, Fred Shuttlesworth, had noticed some of the things that have been going on with Dr. King around the South. And he invited Dr. Martin Luther King in the 60s to come into Birmingham and help them get organized, because, again, Birmingham was known as the most thoroughly segregated city in the nation. Now, it's important to note that there have been several attempts to make things better for people of color in Birmingham, specifically Black people.
Mm-hmm.
But there was always this way of intimidating folk, and that was by violence, what I call domestic terrorism, that in some cases continues today, 60 years later. But the most devastating way of having people understand that people who didn't want the city integrated meant business was the use of dynamite.
Mm,
And there's a moniker that's used sometimes. Instead of Birmingham, they would call it Bumingham. And
mm.
there's a
Wow.
street right around the corner from my house that was Central Street, but it was called Dynamite Hill because of the numerous amount of times that that area was bombed. Angela Davis grew up on that hill, and
Mm,
Arthur Shore's family, and so Birmingham was quite historic. Dr. King came to Birmingham, and he organized the protest
mhm,
that took place in 1963 in Birmingham. And the place that they did their rally was my home church, Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, the historic 16th Street Baptist Church.
mhm,
And so over and over, Dr. King would meet with the community folk, and they would pray and sing the songs of the freedom songs, and we ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and we shall overcome. And then he
yeah,
would train people on non-violent resistance, no weapons,
mm,
no hitting back. Their
mm,
job was to march in twos across the street into Kelly Ingram Park and then proceed over to the courthouse or either to
mm,
City Hall and pray and come back. Most times they didn't make it past the park across the street. They were met by Corner, the police department, with fire hoses and dogs, and
mm,
many were arrested. Well,
mm.
that posed a problem for the leaders of Birmingham because you had all of these adults being arrested, which meant their kids were at home by themselves. So
Mm.
Dr. King had another strategy, and he decided to use the school children of Birmingham to demonstrate. The other issue was if the adults were arrested, that meant they couldn't go to work the next day. And if they were missing for a few days, pretty quick their employer found out why they weren't there. And so they
Mm.
were fired. So that was just, there were too many problems associated with that. But the kids movement was one that Dr. King came up with, and kids from all over the city would go into 16th Street Church and they were being arrested in droves,
Mm.
filled the jail. I think some of them were even locked up at the fairgrounds.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so several of my friends went to demonstrate, and I begged my folks to let me go, but my mom, your sorority sister, chose not to,
Not now.
and she dared me to leave the house.
Mm.
The other part of this, my story, is that Dr. King's nephews, Al and Derek King, were my best friends. My brother Kenneth and I, we were best in the same classrooms at Hill School, and so we heard about the movement directly from them. Many
Wow.
times I would be over to their home in Inslee on the weekends, hang out, and their mother would ask us to quiet down because Dr. King was in the room trying to get some rest. And I said, you mean to tell me that Dr. King's on the other side of this wall here? Because I wanted to see that
And you
man
didn't
so
sneak in there
bad.
to see him?
I, I'm sorry.
I say you didn't sneak in there to
Well,
see him?
I thought about sneaking in, and then I figured that if I did that, that'll be the last time I get the chance to visit their home. So I think I made a good
Okay.
decision. But I did get a chance to see him um, in the aftermath of the church bombing. Um,
Mm.
so another important landmark in that movement is the H.E. Gadsden Motel, which was a block from the church. Many
Mm.
times Dr. King would stay there, and my dad worked there. He was the weekend and evening manager. One Sunday morning, we woke up, and normally we'd be getting ready to go to Sunday school or church, and all these people were in the house. And my brother and I were wondering who they were. Because we could see from our bedroom, these people pretty much didn't belong in our home. They didn't look like us. As a matter of fact, a police officer just stood in our doorway and looked at us for a little bit, and then he walked away. And
Mm.
we didn't hear any yells or screams or anything like that. So we were wondering what's going on. Finally, my mom walked in and explained to us that the people in the house were the police, the FBI. The H.E. Gadsden Motel had been bombed the night before, and
Wow.
our dad was pinned in there temporarily, and they were there to talk to him about what he had experienced and so forth. At the
Mm.
same time, A.D. King's brother's home was bombed the same time, and that was the home where Al and Derek, our good buddies, lived. So the
Mm.
idea was to get Dr. King, but he was at neither place. So this was in June, May or June of 1963. We
But I want to go somewhere else right now because you left Birmingham and you went where?
I came out here to Texas Southern. I
Okay.
went to TSU, but only after I experienced the most terrible thing that can happen. You know, I was in 16th Street Church when it was bombed in September. The schools had been integrated. Dr. King was had done his "I Have a Dream" speech in Washington D.C. in August, and right after Sunday school, there were about 10 boys, 10 young men, right after Sunday school, where we had our class in the library. The building began to shake, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. But once I made my way outside of the church, again, without knowing what was happening, we just knew something was wrong. I began to smell the pungent odor of gunpowder. I realized that the church had been bombed with people in it. Of course, you know the story of four little girls, four precious lives. Uh, Addie, Denise, Carol, and Cynthia were found in the debris and in the bricks as a result of 19 sticks of dynamite left at a church, God's house.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
next week was spent going to funerals, going
Mm.
to the celebrations of life. And that's where I got a chance to see Dr. King in
Oh.
person, not in a magazine and not on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most powerful moment in my entire life. I call that my epiphany experience, the type of experience when you know that you know that you know that you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it looked like every time I tried to look away from him, it appeared that he was looking right at me. And again, I was 11 years old, and was again a powerful moment. So fast forward a couple of years, well, before then, my grandmother
Yeah.
and my mom and my aunt did the very best they could to calm us down after that bombing. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, there was no counseling for black boys and girls in
Right.
Birmingham, but my grandmama was there. And
Mm.
she used to tell us when we had discussions about uh, race, she would tell us to pray, have faith, walk upright, get a good education. That would be her mantra. And she would say that over and over again: pray, have faith, walk upright, and get a good education. But
Mm-hmm.
after the bombing, she added something to it.
Mm.
She said, do something for somebody else.
Mm.
God spared you for a reason. Addie said that Denise and Carol didn't get a chance to live their lives past 12 years, 12 and 13 years old. So you got to do your part and their part as well. I
Mm.
never forgot that, Gloria.
Yeah.
Never forgot that. Had no
Mm.
idea what that meant until I left Birmingham some 10 years later, found my way to Houston to accept a band scholarship in the Ocean of Soul. And while I was at school, while I was I think it was my second year, my sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
I became involved with Alpha Phi Alpha. That was because of the Alphas in Birmingham that was so
Mm.
powerful
Wow.
and showed so much leadership when I
Mm.
was growing up. So I knew that I wanted to follow in their footsteps. And I think it was my second fraternity meeting. As I sat there, that's when I learned about big brothers and big sisters, and
Wow.
made a promise to one of the Alpha brothers who was in law school that
Mm-hmm.
once I received my degree, I would strongly consider becoming a part of that program.
Yeah.
I kept my promise,
Yeah. You.
and, uh,
Yeah.
and been doing it now for like, gosh, 47 years, I think.
Yeah.
So that's been a blessing to me, but it took years for me to understand that the powerful message and the mantra that my grandmother talked about,
Mm-hmm.
combined with looking into the eyes of Dr. King in the aftermath of the funeral of three of the four girls,
Mm-hmm.
that led me to a lifetime of dedication of serving my community, but in particular working with young men as a mentor with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
How many have you had? How many mentors have you had? Or mentees or littles as we
Yeah,
call them?
I've had seven. I've had
Oh.
seven littles. Right now, let's see, my seventh is Montel, and
Uh-huh.
he lives in Forney. He's a senior in high school, and he's struggling with having to study at home. But we talk on the phone quite a bit. We don't see each other. Well, we
Yeah.
do. We FaceTime each, similar to
Right.
what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
We look at each other every now and then. And our last big project was to both of us were reading the book. What was the book about the guy in Alabama? Um, oh, the, the guy the attorney in Alabama that freed the guy who was on death row.
Oh, Just Mercy.
That's right. That's right.
Just Mercy. Uh-huh.
The last thing we did face to face is we went to see that movie, and so I
Okay.
bought him the book, and I bought myself the book, and we've been reading it, and at some point we'll get together, have lunch, and talk about it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just made a technical error. But so you've had seven, and do you stay in touch with all of them?
I've lost contact with some of them now. One of them in particular, Michael Johnson, still lives in the area. He
Okay.
lives up in Louisville, and he was my little when I was National Big Brother of the Year. So we traveled all over the country together. We went to the White House together, and he had a chance to share the podium with President Bush, Daddy Bush, as
Mhm.
did I. And so I'm sure he'll never forget that as long as he lives. But the
Yeah.
important thing is that um, he's a barber up in Louisville, but
Mm.
he chose to become a big brother himself. And so the day that he signed up was probably one of the happiest days of my life to see him
Wow.
following into my footsteps and
Yeah.
sharing with another young man some of the things that I was able to share with him.
Okay. Well, he's up here where I am. I'm gonna have to go find him and tell him.
Okay, okay,
We'll do that offline. We'll do that
okay,
off.
absolutely.
So now you've had the experience of being at the 13th. I mean, I keep saying 13th. I sent someone a text last night saying, I don't know why I can't get 16th in my mind. But being in the bombing now, what has happened since then? Have you've joined, or you've been part of organizing an organization so that it's never forgotten and doing other things? Is that correct?
Absolutely. A few years ago, about 5 years ago, I was called by a young lady, Ann Jimson, who grew up in Birmingham, a white lady.
Mhm.
We had this conversation. She was explaining to me during our conversation that she wanted to, even though we all grew up together in Birmingham, white people and black people, we were the same age, but
Mhm.
we couldn't have known each other because we went to segregated schools.
Right.
But she had this idea. She had this idea of bringing us together. 50 years later, 60 years later. So these people are scattered all over the country, and she
Mhm.
asked me to help her invite some of my friends who grew up in Birmingham, who were part of the movement, who I grew up with. Some of the kids who were in 16th Street Church along with me. And so we have this group now called Kids in Birmingham 1963.org. And
Mhm.
we're about 80 people at this point, but we're all over the country from one end to the other. But we get together and have Zoom meetings once a month. We might read the same book. We might do book reports. But here recently, we launched a Get Out the Vote campaign because we realized that the things that were going on in Birmingham, especially in 1963, had to do with the right to vote. Isn't it ironic that we're still dealing with that issue today? I see you're scrolling the website there. That photograph that's there. We were featured in NBC Nightly News when we all convened in Birmingham a few years ago, and that was certainly a great experience. But we talked about things that happened in Birmingham while we were together, and so we're looking for opportunities to make not just Birmingham better, but this entire country better. So again, our most recent project is to get the vote out. And so if you go to that website, if you go to Kids in Birmingham 1963.org, that's another opportunity for you to find information that will lead you towards voting. If you need to register, it's there. If you need to understand what the rules are in your specific state in terms of early voting and locations and so forth, I invite you to go there because we put a lot of work into it because, again, much of what happened in 1963 in Birmingham had to do with human rights and voting. If you recall, the Civil Rights Act was immediately after that, the Voting Rights Act and the Federal Housing Act. And so Birmingham played a significant part. And so what we do, we offer ourselves to people doing research and to people who are studying the things that happened in Birmingham. And I flew to Birmingham a couple of months ago and sat through a 3-hour interview. And there's supposed to be a documentary in Paris, France, next month. I think he told me October 13th. And I hope to get a copy of it. And Gloria, I'll share it with you. But I know I can remember October 13th because that's the day that I'm going to vote.
Okay, that's the first day of early voting here in Texas. Absolutely. First day of early voting here in Texas. Absolutely. Yeah, I may not be the first day, but I'll definitely be the first week. I try to avoid the crowds. And I know the first day it's going to be a lot of people trying to go, but you know, I'll be there the week. I early vote all the time now. I don't deal with the, I do try to sometimes work the polls or work getting people to the polls as opposed to, that's something to think about.
Absolutely. It's so important that we do that. And no matter how you do it, if you do it by mail, I say do it early. If you're planning to do early voting, my plan is to be there on the 13th, first thing in the morning. And if you choose to wait to the election day, the 3rd of November, my advice would be to go early, not be intimidated. Don't let the bad weather, if it's bad weather, don't let it intimidate you or keep you from going. Because again, you got to remember that there are people who lost their lives for that right for you to vote. So the people in the area where I live, they'll tell you, I walk out in this park every day and I hit up people as we walk. Are you ready to vote? Do you need a voter registration card? If you follow me to my car in the parking lot, I give you one. Because voting is so important. And that stems back to John Lewis.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
Because he spent his lifetime leading us, and he began as a young person.
And literally shed blood.
Absolutely. On the Edmund Pettus Bridge and the Selma to Montgomery March that had to do with the right to vote.
Yeah. So, Dale, I'm going to go into a few of the questions that I'll ask the people next week. What do you say to those people who say that, you know, when they're talking about the presidential candidate, neither one of them, meets their need or whatever? What do you say to those people that say those things?
Well, you're never going to find someone that's perfect because that only perfect person is not around here, but he's watching what's going on. But that other perfect person would be yourself.
Right.
You're going to always do things to accommodate yourself. So you follow the direction of the person that's going in the same direction you are. In other words, if you get on a bus, you don't want to get on the bus that's going a different direction. You going the other way. Get on the same bus that's more in tune with the direction you're going to when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to the things that you would desire for your family to have in terms of education. If you notice some things that need to be changed in your neighborhood regarding transportation, if you go back and look at the Dallas Area Rapid Transit where we met, that was funded with federal funds. And the congressman from this area went back to DC, got the money because they proved to their colleagues there that Dallas needed a system like that. If you want to upgrade the schools in your area, and it's not just important to vote just for president.
Right.
I know you've heard all politics is local. And so you can, take care of your streets. I just spent 20 years working for the City of Dallas Public Works, taking care of your streets and your alleys and your sidewalks and the parks in your area. Those things are important to your quality of life. And
Right.
you have elected people to deal with that. Now, just don't elect them and send them there and say,
Right.
do
Right.
right. Look, write letters, send emails, go to town hall meetings, tell them what you want. Here's another one, especially in local government,
Mhm.
volunteer to be on boards and commissions
Right.
because you too can help make decisions that's going to make improvements to your neighborhood. So
Yeah.
there's something for everybody to do. And you must understand, 60 years ago, that wasn't available to people who look like the two of us.
Yeah. Not at
And
all.
so many people died. Again, I can't say that enough. Some people literally lost their lives
Yeah.
for our right to be able to do that
Yeah.
because, we have to engage in public service
Mhm.
and in the political arena if we going to keep our neighborhoods nice and safe and vibrant. And
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
My council folk know me. The mayor of Garland, they know me. I show up at city council every now and then, and I can take you to landmarks that I was a part of that recreation centers here in Garland that we made sure that took place. That
Mhm.
didn't happen by happenstance. It
Right.
happened because we got involved and we made the people who we elected to understand that we wanted very nice things for our neighborhoods also.
Yes. And the other thing, we are talking about the systematic racism that's going on now. Another group that we need to look at on the ballot are the various judges. I was listening the other day, I don't know, someone's show, and it was there is a black female running for I'm not sure if it was the Supreme Court or what. No, it was not the Supreme Court. But anyway, the position that she was running for had 7 Republicans, 7 seats, and they were all Republican. And she was going to be the only Democrat if when she is elected to sit on that, to sit in that seat. And one of the things we need to look at are the variety of judges, because if they are mishandling or misjudging our case based on the color of the skin, we need to get more of us in there to make sure we're sitting on those seats.
Absolutely, so important. All parts of government are so important. I mean, that's why they're there to make decisions relative to our quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel a whole lot better if I was standing before a judge that looked like me,
You think?
that could understand, my background and understand me, and perhaps would make a suitable or better decision in
Yeah.
helping to understand how I got there, and making a decision that would, if I was guilty, to rehabilitate me
Mm-hmm.
rather than put me into incarceration. That's not going to do anything but make me worse.
Right.
So that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother program,
No,
mass incarceration.
and
But
I
those judge positions are so important.
I'll give Dart a little shout out. Dart is giving free rides to the poll. I just saw that today. So if you want to plan your trip to your voting place, they're giving free rides to the poll. So another non-reason or a reason to not give an excuse to get out and vote. And go ahead.
Gloria, you mentioned that, and you reminded me of something that I saw today. It's so important if you plan on voting by mail, answer all of the questions.
Mm.
Make sure that the information that you answer on those cards are consistent with your voter registration card.
Mm.
If they say sign it, sign it. If they ask for your birthday, give it to them. Your address, all of that is important because there are people looking for reasons to throw your card out.
Yeah.
This is the most important election of my lifetime. I was led to believe that it was some time ago when President Barack Obama ran.
Yeah.
At the time, that was the most important.
Right. Yeah.
But this one, gosh, is so important. And I'm hoping that we have a massive turnout that goes far beyond what this community did. Because see, it's hard to do something if you just president. You got to make sure that you have a Senate that agrees with the things that you care about, as well as the House of Representatives. And so there are a lot of opportunities. Study the issues. Again, go to those town hall meetings. You know, I was asking my wife Ellen today, I said, you know, I'm doing this with Gloria and I got another one this week. I'm a panelist on the Garland NAACP debate for school board and city council. And so I'm doing that Thursday. So been doing that for 30 years. This is the first time I do it virtually. But, yeah, but we have to do it. We have to do it because we have to ask those people who are vying to represent us on the city council and on the school board. Again, that's going to affect us the most.
Yeah.
Local elections. So I'm looking forward to that.
One thing that I decided to do this year that this is the first time that I'm doing it. I've printed out my ballot before, because you can go online and print out your ballot. But the other thing that I said I'm going to do is I'm going to literally look into the people and see who's supporting them. Like, I also work with the Texas Democrats, Texas Disability Democrats. And we've endorsed certain people that will be good for people with disabilities. And that's what I said. I'm gonna look at my ballot and share those things with other people in our social media to say, okay, this person is good for this, that, or the other. And I implore other people to do the same. If you're with an organization and they're supporting a particular individual for a particular reason that they support, the things that concern you, share that information, because a lot of times people go into the voting booth and they have no idea who to vote for after the president. And I'm talking about college educated, smart people do that also.
There are people all over the city. I remember for the last 2 or 3 fraternity meetings at my Alpha meetings, we talk about campus.
Yeah.
And complex all over the area, all over the suburbs and stuff. So you have some guys talking about who's running in Frisco, who's running in Little Elm, who's running in Louisville, who's running in Dallas, Garland, Richardson, Plano. You have 27 cities in Dallas County. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that. And so there's a lot going on. But the people that end up in these positions make decisions that's going to change the way we live, one way or the other. It's going to be either good or bad. Things like funding for your schools. The decisions have to be made as to how we're going to work out our athletic program with the virus situation that's going on. People have to make those decisions. How are our kids going to be educated? Do you realize that most of the kids in this entire country stopped school before school was over last year? And they're having a tough time starting school this year. And we can't afford to have our kids crippled like that. So a lot of decisions have to be made in order to get our kids back up to speed and deal with the issues that's immediately in front of us. And so you want people that care not just about their own families, about their own kids, but your kids and my kids and grandkids as well, because it's so important. I want the people in the community that I live in to be ready to go to jobs and to get ready to go to college. A lot of folks who don't look like us, their kids in private school.
Yeah.
See,
or they're hiring tutors to come in to do.
They're doing clusters where they're getting teachers to come in and teach their kids. And guess what? The same job that our kids are going to be after will be the same job that they'll be after too. We got to make sure that ours are ready. It's so tough because if you and I got to go to a job, in many cases, how you going to stay home and teach your kids? But, Dr. King figured it out. John Lewis figured it out. The notorious RBG figured it out. So we're smart people. We have to figure it out as well. And so, a lot of decisions are being made, but we have to be there and help. The Commissioner of Education for the state of Texas is Michael Morath. White guy. Alpha brother. A lot of people don't know that. And so I picked up the phone and called him. He will tell you. I called him and I question some of the decisions that he makes, and we discuss them. And the last time I spoke with him about a month ago, there were three of us on the phone at the same time. So
Wow.
it's clear to him that
Yeah.
we're watching him. And I
Good.
told him that we know who invited you to be there, but we're watching you because you're going to have to make sure that you make good decisions for all people. So far, he's done a pretty good job considering the administration down in Austin.
Yeah.
But we're still watching. Michael, we're still watching.
So, and one of the things that I heard said, for the people who choose not to vote or think their vote don't make a difference, why would people be working so hard to suppress your vote if it didn't make a difference?
Well,
when you think about that.
Gloria, for years I've been a deputy voter registrar.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to the county headquarters to renew my ability to do that, I was told that I got to take a test. I said, wait a minute, why do I have to take a test for something I've done for 30 years?
Yeah.
And I realized that was an opportunity for, as you said, voter suppression.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured I'm a smart man, so I sat down to take the test, and then I realized the state legislature had changed the numbers around just a little bit. And I had no way of knowing. Instead of 9, it was now 7. Instead of 11, it's now 12. And so I didn't do too good the first time around, but I stayed there another hour because I was determined to get that designation before I left. I told them I'm not leaving.
Right.
So I went in a room by myself, looked at a videotape for about an hour, came back to the test and passed it the second time because I wanted to be able to sign up people, not just in my church, but throughout the community. Again, for the right to vote. So a lot of people put in a whole lot of work. And the fraternities and the sororities and the Divine Nine, they're all over the place. Paul Quinn, everywhere.
Yeah.
Signing up people to vote. And so you do have something to vote for. And you'll be surprised. And sometimes if you have a conversation with our elected officials, you'll be surprised as to what the things they would share with you. I ran into Senator John Cornyn in the airport in Washington, D.C. last year.
And what did you ask him?
I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking to him because I figured security come get me out if I kept him too long. But I talked to him about some of the decisions that he made that I observed and gave him credit for being smarter than that. And I told him who I was, gave him my name and where I lived and everything. And I told him, Mr. Senator, remember I said this, right, RIGHT will prevail. In the long run. Right will prevail. You can not continue to make the decisions that you're doing, enabling you know who to do the things he does and get away with it. Right will prevail. Good day, sir. And I walked away and got on the plane before he called the police on me.
Well, but you gave him 3 words that are easy to remember, that when he's doing something, hopefully he sees this little black guy with a beard on his shoulder saying, right will prevail. So look, you planted the seed, it's up to God to do the rest. So,
Well, hopefully what you just said will work out. And I've run into him from time to time. I think I saw him once over at Friendship West Church. We sat near each other at an event there. So, the next time I see him, we're going to continue the conversation briefly, but making my point because it's so important. He's in Washington, D.C. because he was sent there by the citizens of the state of Texas, not just to represent some people, but the entire city, the entire state, with liberty and justice for all.
And that's the important thing about voting. Voting is important, but once again, action after voting is important, regardless of what party they came from. They are supposed to represent every person, and we should not have a problem contacting any of them, regardless of where they are, relative to their decisions that affect us, because they are there to serve all of the people, as you say. And I think it's forgotten a lot of times when we start doing these partisan divisions and stuff. But no, he or she is there to represent all of us, not just the ones that they agree with. And I think we forget that a lot.
Well,
And I
you can always call them on the phone. You can
I
call
think,
them the local office. You can call the Washington D.C. office, and for every phone call you make, uh, politicians look at that as not just being one call.
mhm,
They think you're talking to people, and if you tell somebody just like I just told your viewers,
yeah,
see, you know what would happen if they got on the phone and called John Conyers tomorrow and said,
right,
"Mr. Senator, right will prevail."
right. I
You
just
see,
said,
I've heard that someplace before. You know, same thing with email. You
yep,
can write your
yep,
congressman or your senator or your state representative or your council person. They have no idea how many other people are being copied.
yeah,
Those are constituents. Those are votes.
yeah,
And so at least they owe you to call you back and let you know what they're going to do or why they made the decision that they
right,
did.
right,
So many just simple things.
yeah,
I was seeing some things happening in my neighborhood that shouldn't be happening. I called my city council person, got it fixed the next day.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had this experience last week, but it was just it was at work. But and what you just said brought it to mind. That squeaky wheel will get the oil, and so open up your mouth and let them know what you disapprove of and approve of also. But you should never be afraid to cause concern or uh, call out things that that are not good for you and your family or you and your neighborhood or you and your city or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
I received a invitation to be on the task force by my state representative. Now we are different political. She's a Republican, I'm Democrat. But guess what? There was no reason for me not to go.
Right,
Otherwise, it would be a room full of people giving her ideas, and I wouldn't be there.
right, right.
See, and when
Absolutely.
I got there, there were three African American men and about 30 people who didn't look like us. But guess what? We were sitting there giving each other eye signals, and we made it clear that we would be heard and heard very well
Right, right,
before that hour was up. Uh,
right.
I think I showed up in my gym clothes because I was running late and I didn't have time to change clothes. But I wanted to be there to express my opinion. And
Yeah.
see, with my doing that, I call her office anytime I get ready and say, hey, I didn't like what happened. I saw on the news where down in Houston, for example, the lines were long and people didn't vote till 1 in the morning. I'm
Mhm.
not going to put up with that again.
Right, right,
I know you don't have anything to do with what's going on down there in Houston, but you
mhm,
do have access to the Secretary of State, and
right.
it's her job. I think it's she now. Her job to make sure that voting activity is taking place in such a way as not to intimidate people. Be real careful about where the problems are and whose neighborhoods the
Mhm.
problems take place in. The booth didn't work or something got here late and all of that. Because
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
from now on out, and in some states, early voting has already started.
yeah.
This is so important. Call your relatives, email your relatives, text your friends and say, hey, show
Uh,
up because
yep.
we got to make a difference this time around as well.
Yeah. So Dale, as we close this out, one of the questions that I want to ask you is that you do so much. How do you balance it all?
Well, I will tell you that I have a supporting wife who she'll make sure dinner's on the table. If I ask her to proofread something because I don't spell too well,
Okay.
she'll be glad to do it. I think I took over her space to do um, this evening, so she's in another part of our house, and but she was very glad to give me this space so that I can be on this broadcast with you. And so again, it would be a supporting wife and family. The other one was I grew up with loving parents. They're gone on now, but they planted a seed in me to give back to the community. And again, it goes back to my grandmother that said, pray, have faith, walk upright, get a good education, but do something for somebody else. And
Mm,
then the other situation that I can't help but mention was, it was kind of tough being away from home, just turned 18 going down to Texas Southern, but there were instructors there who meant business.
Yeah.
They were my dad and mom's away from home, and they made sure that after 4 years, I left there with a degree, and to
Mm,
be able to make mom and dad proud. Had the best opportunity one could ever expect to have
mm,
playing in that band.
yeah.
But
What
I got
instrument
an education, play clarinet,
you
and
clarinet?
I taught myself to play saxophone when I
Wow.
was in elementary school. But my primary instrument was clarinet. And Ben Butler, my mentor, was the band director then. He's in his 80s now. We talk just about once a month.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So he continues to educate, even though I'm not too far behind him.
And I have to add, you are a man who does yoga.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out a way to get back into it. I had to stop for a little while because of the virus, because most of my opportunities were taking place in gyms, and of course, the gyms are at the top of the list
Right. Right.
in terms of the things you might want to avoid, especially if you have some other issues. And
Yeah.
name somebody that look like us that doesn't have diabetes or high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So I've stayed away. I've done a few classes, yoga in the park,
Mhm.
and I'm being told about some virtual yoga experiences that I'm looking into because I don't want to lose it. Because Gloria, I tell you, after discovering it about 10 years ago, I would tell you that's the best thing I
Yeah.
ever did for myself. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable, very hard to explain, but
Yeah.
it's a wonderful experience. And if this virus ever goes away, I would advise anybody to take a look at it,
Yeah.
especially as you get up in age, because we
Mhm.
have to be able to balance,
Mhm.
use every muscle in our bodies, because you lose it if you don't.
Yeah.
And so it's been good to me. My doctor told me, he said, Dale, the best pill in the pharmacy ain't in the pharmacy. It's in the park across the street. So go get some exercise.
Well, sir, I want to say I so appreciate you as always, because a lot of times when I'm calling, it's asking you to do something. So I appreciate you.
Call
Uh,
me anytime.
we One of the things I do is pray for my guests at the end. If you have no problem with that, I'd like to do that at this time.
Sure.
Father God, I just thank you for this time together with Dale. I thank you for him and all that he does. God, prayerfully, someone will be inspired to work as he has worked, or just to go out and do something. Maybe they'll be inspired to vote, Father, or just get involved in their community, as Dale has over 40 years of just making a difference, Father. And God, we thank you for all the things that he's done. We ask that you protect him, protect his family, that everywhere he walks is blessed, Father. And we just give you all the glory for all the things that he's going to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank God for you too.
Thank you. Thank you. And everybody, I want to tell y'all, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it so much because you just listen to me talk to my friends. You ear hustling a little bit, but please come back next week. We're going to be talking about voter information, registration, and motivation. We're going to try to do everything we can to decrease the largest number of non-voters. There are more non-voters than voters, so we're going to try to
The
increase that.
largest political party there is people
Largest
who don't.
political party there is, non-voters. So we're going to try to change that. Okay. So thank you. I love you and be blessed. See you
Thank
later.
you. Take
Uh-huh.
care. Good evening.
Bye-bye. India. Yeah, we're going to get it.